How's it going? Welcome back to the Shot Clock Podcast. Sam with Robert Horry, former Laker, former Spur, former Houston Rocket, and now he's analyzing and being a commentator for Spectrum Sportsnet out in LA. Rob, how are you doing today, man?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to have you on. I'm glad we were able to work this out. You're one of my favorite guys to use in 2K, so I know all that. I was like playing 2K about 2 years ago, and I was like, This was before I knew too much about basketball. I was like Robert Horry. I was like, man, he's a really good shooter on 2K. And I was like greening every shot with you. So it's kind of cool now to be able to interview you.
It's funny you say that. I was a big 2K fan with NBA Live and all those when I was playing in the league, and I actually met some guys. And if you look at the cover of the '95 Live, I'm on the cover when I was with the Rockets. We playing the Knicks, so I knew those guys. So I was actually the best player in the game. They made me the best player in the game. So, and when we used to play the game, my friends somehow they found out. I said, "You cannot be you." I was like, "No, yes, I can." So I used to only play with me, and I averaged about 60 points a game.
So how crazy does kind of like play a video game, and let's say you're playing with your own player on there, and you're like, man, that's so weird that I'm playing as myself on a video game. Like, is that ever crazy to you?
It's the video game's been around for a long time. So at this point, no. I think my kids get mad when they can't get my character, so they have to say, "Yo, man, you need to call it Ronnie 2K and send us a code so we can get you, because it ain't fair for you to be our dad. We can't play with you." So I usually make a phone call and I get them the code so they can play with me. So it's fun to see that they like to play me and go in there and you hear my name being called. I'm like, only if I got that many shots when I actually played the game.
Yeah, it's quite cool. And a little bit about, I want to go on to your actual career itself. I mean, you played for the Rockets, the Spurs, the Lakers at one point as well, and you were a part of that three-peat for the Lakers and got to play with some historical players, all-time greats as well, with both of those teams, the Rockets and the Spurs as well. So what's that like to kind of be at the right place at the right time and be able to play with these historic legends?
It's always great just to be in the NBA itself. But for me, I've been very, very fortunate to play with a lot of great players. I started my career off playing alongside, Kenny, Otis, The Dream, and Vernon, and that starting lineup. So that was very fun. And then you move on from that to Rick, B. Shaw, Shaq, Kobe. So, and then you got Ginobili, Tim, and Tony. I've been very fortunate, throughout my career. You're playing with those guys, you learn a lot from them as they do you. So it was very fun. I was very fortunate to be on some great teams, have some great moments in the NBA. And the thing about playing in the NBA, once you get in the NBA, you want to stay. And I was lucky I stayed around for 16 years and had 7 championships under my belt, and played some significant minutes and significant roles for some historical franchises.
Yeah, and significant minutes is not an understatement for you because, I mean, you hit that amazing shot against the Kings in the 2002 Western Conference Finals, and that was one of the things that really put you on the map as a young player at that time. Was that big shot?
Bryant putting the move on Christie. Rebound O'Neal. Cutting up short. Horry for the
It's weird. People know me from that shot, and that lets you know how powerful the Laker brand is. Because I was doing that when I was with Houston and winning championships, but the Houston brand compared to the Laker brand is not the same. And it's all about, that's what the NBA is about. For a long time, it was all about the big markets, and now the NBA has flourished. It's a global brand now. You got so many international players coming in and doing great things, and to make a shot like that for the Lakers. And think about this. The Lakers was my team growing up. I was a huge Magic Johnson fan. I had a poster of him on my wall when I was in college, and I just tried to go out and be the best player I could be. And then next thing you know, you're playing for the Lakers and you're doing it at home in the playoffs against crosstown or cross-state rivals. So it was a fun moment for me. One of the most exciting moments in my NBA career.
Yeah, and talking a little bit about that, playing in small markets and bigger markets, we watch a lot of these players now leaving these small markets, but then do you think it was better? Do you think now is like a good time to leave these small markets to go to these bigger markets, or do you think it shouldn't be a thing happening in this current NBA?
The NBA is different now, and think about it. Social media has made small markets big markets, and there are no small markets anymore. If you take a team like Milwaukee, for instance, Giannis Antetokounmpo, you probably want to maybe keep him back in the day, but now guys can go out and grab him. And you think about now, guys are friends. Everybody in the NBA are friends, so they want to play with one another. And when I was coming up, nobody were really friends. You were only friends with the guys on your team or somebody you played college ball with, or something like that. So now these guys want to play together and establish these dominant teams. So it's very interesting how the league has transformed. It went from, a small market for I say probably about 75% of the teams in the NBA, because you only really had the Knicks and the Lakers that were the large markets, and now to everybody being a large market because the brand is so big. The NBA brand is it's global, and I have a couple of Zoom meetings next week with China and the Philippines. That lets you know how big the brand is. And it's just wonderful now these guys can get the recognition that they deserve and play at such a high level. And people around the world can actually see these guys perform live because of the technology we have and the social media aspect. And so it's good to see these guys can get their acknowledgments and go out and make the game of basketball a better sport and make it a global brand.
Yeah, and you watch a lot of these markets like the Hornets, the Bulls, the Bulls were back then were a big market, but now they're considered a small market. But they kind of get put on the map by these players that aren't as phenomenal. But I mean, you look at Zach LaVine and LaMelo Ball. I mean, they're putting these teams on the map. And last year, I mean, you would have never talked about the Bulls. You would have never talked about the Hornets. So it's just crazy to watch this difference in the NBA within just one player, how big they can make a difference with social media.
Yeah, now the fact that, MJ, Michael Jordan's not in Chicago, you really didn't think about them that much. But now Zach LaVine, like you said, is doing a fantastic job there. He's an all-star. But, as far as Charlotte, after Miles Bridges dunked on Capella, I don't think they're even thinking about Ball right now. It's all about Miles Bridges because he really put them on the map with that. But, Ball has stepped in there, and he's playing extremely well. And I hate that he got hurt because he's probably been Rookie of the Year. But now that opens the door up for Edwards over in Minnesota to get, be back on top because he's a fantastic player to watch also. So it's a great thing. And I kind of wish that this social aspect and the YouTube and all this kind of stuff was in existence when I played. So now when I walk somewhere and somebody be like, you used to play, what was your name? Who? What? They would know because they would know all the shots that I made because they'd be watching it on YouTube. It's kind of hard to find those shots now in the archives.
Yeah, and how big of a difference do you think then, like back in the late 90s, the early 2000s would have made a difference in like if social media was present at your time of playing?
I think they made a huge difference because you got guys like the Rifleman. I say that, and people are like, who in the hell is a Rifleman? And it's like Chuck Person, one of the greatest shooters you ever seen. He played in Minnesota, played for Indiana. He played, really good shooter. Then you got guys like Doug West and all these guys that nobody ever knew of, and because they weren't household names, and you weren't the Patrick Ewings, the Charles Barkleys, the MJs, the Pippins, the Elijah ones. There was only like 10 guys that the NBA really promoted, and you had a lot of these other guys that came into the league and were playing for these small market teams like Minnesota, Vancouver, out of Toronto and Atlanta. It was so many great guys that they didn't get the notoriety that they needed or deserved, and they don't get thought about because they didn't have the viewing power that the guys have now. And think about it, guys are stars now in high school and some middle school. Zion Williams was a star when he was in middle school, signing autographs and doing his things. So that lets you know the power of social media and YouTube, and people can, sit back and watch these guys develop from, teenagers, not even teenagers, like a Zion, and watch them through their whole career step by step. That journey is kind of fantastic if you think about it. You've seen this guy when he first stepped on the scene. You can watch him in middle school, then high school, then 1 year of college in the pros. You really growing up with these people, and you think you know them, but until you really get a chance like us to talk, then you really get to know them.
Yeah, and like you said, a lot of those athletes shining in high school and middle school. I mean, I just did a speech today in speech class on Zion and the one and done rule. And I was kind of talking about like how crazy it is, like how much like why NCAA athletes should be paid. And I mean, you look at how much recognition these players bring in at such a young age, and they're bringing ticket sales in from all over the place. Without Zion, the Pelicans wouldn't be as big of a market as they are now, or without LaMelo, the Hornets wouldn't be as big of a market as they are now. Or if you even look at the Grizzlies, without John Morant being a star in college, I mean, they wouldn't be as popular now.
The thing about that is you're so right. You think about when you're in college. A lot of these guys don't have the money or the come from the right part of the country, the right part of the world where they can be striving in a certain situation. So if you had the rights to your name, which is the most ridiculous thing I ever heard, that you can't use your name to make money. This is my name, not yours. I can understand, like, why can I go out and buy a bunch of North Carolina, Alabama, whatever jerseys, and put my name on and sell them out the back of my trunk? That'd be like me taking a bunch of CDs, like Master P, and selling and trying to sell my music. I could do that, but it's the craziest thing. As long as I use my money to make money, I should be allowed to do that. And I think the NCAA has messed up and now allowing all these athletes to use their name because they're making a lot of money. And one of the things that it always gets forgotten about in that whole shuffle is these college coaches. You think about this. I want to know. I would like to know how much money Mike Krzyzewski makes off of Nike, because think about it. Nike pays him a lot of money to use their shoes, but it's the athletes that have out there on the court and wearing these shoes that are making Mike Krzyzewski these money. That money should really go back to those kids. You know what I mean? And we never talk about it. These coaches are getting rich too, and I'm not mad at them because that's just a part of the system. He's just a cog in the system as the players are, and it's what it is. But they got to find a way to compensate these players because the money is getting out of hand, and now the guys they're one and done, and they're not now they're even bypassing college, going to the G League. So they need a way to find it, because college basketball is fantastic. Think about what we just witnessed with Gonzaga and Baylor and the excitement behind that, and they need to find a way to make sure these kids get compensated so we'll have more good college basketball games.
Yeah, one of the things that had to be tough for you within that March Madness tournament was Alabama against UCLA. So,
Yeah.
and Alabama hit that overtime shot, or hit that shot to send them into overtime from deep. And then there they are, they go into overtime and then they lose. So what was that kind of like as a fan of being from living in LA now, but being an Alabama fan?
The part was I was ready to talk trash too, because my son is he wants to go to UCLA. That's where he wants to play basketball at. And so, I'm sitting there watching this game and I'm like, wow, we gonna really lose to UCLA? We had a better team. We just couldn't make our free throws. And when they made that shot to go into overtime, I said, oh, that's the momentum we need. But it seemed like we even got worse in overtime. We took a lot of bad shots, and that's the nature of the game now. You're gonna take a lot of threes because I always laugh at this one, says they would say, well, 3 is more than 2. I'm saying, yeah, but the percentages suck the more you go, the further you go out. Give me a guy. I would rather have 5 dunks in the paint and then 1 3. Everybody thinks that's better than that, but it's not. And so Alabama took a lot of bad shots down the stretch and they lost the game. And then I had to hear my son talk trash about, yeah, I'm not going to Alabama. I'm going to UCLA. We just beat you guys. But I said, okay, let's wait to see what happens next year.
Having sons in the playing basketball, do you ever feel like there's an expectation on them that sometimes may be hard that you wish they didn't have?
I actually do. I feel bad for my child because all my kids, because they put a lot of pressure on themselves. I wouldn't want to be someone like Bronny James, because that's even more pressure because his dad is LeBron James, and I'm not even on the same level as him. But I know my kids, they think you are, and so they go out and they want to represent the name well. And I had to take my my youngest son, who plays basketball. My other kids play football, and I was like, yeah, you ain't got to worry about it. I never played football, so you're on your own with that one. But my youngest son, I really try to tell him, I said, dude, you're you, be you. Like, you're totally different from me. You're a better athlete than I was at your age. So you got to find a way that works for you. Don't try to be me. Don't listen to nobody else. I can guide you and give you the right toolage, but it's up to you to find a path and what you're comfortable with. And so for him, it's been a struggle because he wants to be great. He wants to do so many things on the court, and he tries to do everything. And I was like, dude, you're still 15 years old. You're trying to figure out what you can do best. So work your way. It's a marathon. It ain't a sprint. So he's learning. So I'm proud of him. I'm very excited to watch his journey and be there for him, because I think he's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, and I mean, he has a lot of expectation to live up to as well. I mean, you get the nickname Big Shot Rob for no reason at all. I mean, I mean, look at the posters behind you of all the big shots you had. So, I mean,
Yeah.
getting that nickname, when did that come about?
It came about when I was in Houston. I think it came a guy by the name of Craig Kilborn, who used to be on ESPN. He could call me that one game, and it was actually called me Big Shot Bob. And I saw him because I was doing the playoffs. They always hanging around doing the playoffs, and I was just joking with him and saying, "My mom doesn't want you to call me Bob because that's my dad's name. She want me to have my own identity." And so he went on TV the next time. The next time I was playing and said, "Oh, Big Shot Bob. Oh, I'm sorry. Whose mom doesn't want me to call him Bob, so we'll call him Rob." And so it went from there. So I've been called that since my Houston Rockets days back in 95, 94, 95. So it's been sticking with me a while. But of course, when I get to the Lakers, I make one shot, and now it's plastered all over the world because of the brand name.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, you got to play alongside Kobe, Shaq, and some greats. But really, what was your kind of like teaching moment for you whenever you played for the Rockets as a young rookie?
I think my biggest teaching moment was actually wasn't from any of the players. It was when I got traded to Detroit. I got traded to Detroit my second year for Sean Elliott, but Sean Elliott failed his physical because he had bad kidneys. He actually had to later on have a kidney transplant. So it taught me to just play basketball. When you play in basketball, you have to be a team player, but sometimes you have to look out for yourself because you can't just defer all the time. Defer. And when you play with, great thing about it, I was playing with Otis Thorpe, Vernon Maxwell, Kenny Smith, and Dream. I was deferring to them a lot. It's okay. This is what you're supposed to do. It's a pecking order. And I realized, dude, I'm sacrificing my game, which is hurting the team. So I just learned not to sacrifice my game and just do what I do best, and that's to be a basketball player and think the game and play the game. And so that was the one aha moment for me, or the turning point for me, where getting traded for not shooting the basketball. So I came back saying, okay, let me shoot this rock and do my thing.
Was there ever a time in your career where you kind of looked at it and you're like, once I retire, something I might want to look at is broadcasting? Because I know from many, so that wasn't a point in your career where you thought about that.
No, man, no. Being from Alabama and having that country slang, sometimes certain things come out a certain way, and people are like, "What the hell did he just say?" So I tried. I didn't think I'd be going to broadcasting. I actually wanted to go into coaching. Growing up, that's all I wanted to be a math teacher / coach. That's what I wanted to be. My mom's a teacher. My dad was in the military, and I definitely want to go into the military because I don't want nobody shooting at me. But I just thought that was my path, and that's what I wanted to be, because I remember coaching kids at a young age, going to the YMC when I was in college, doing student teaching when I was in college. And I just had a passion for coaching and watching young kids learn. Watching children learn and improve is such a rewarding feeling. And that's what I wanted to do. But the NBA started calling, so I had to answer that call. And now I'm at the point where I'm thinking about it. But we know who knows. I got to see what happens.
Another thing about your career is everybody has that welcome to the league moment as a rookie. I mean, some is getting dunked on, some is getting swatted by their favorite player. What was your welcome to the league moment for yourself?
For me, I think when I first got in the league, I was a slasher, I was a dunker. I hit a couple threes every now and then, but I think my aha moment was I went to the hole and tried to dunk on Mark Eaton. And of course, it was a foul, but it's Mark Eaton. He knows how to control his body. And I got up and I looked at the ref. I'm like, "Yo, man, that was a foul." And he looked at me. He says, "Listen here, young fella, you got to get stronger." I said, "Don't." He said, "Don't bring that weak S in here." I'm like, "Wow, the ref just told me don't bring the weak stuff in here." Right. So that was my aha moment, where next thing I know, I'm in the weight room a little bit more and I'm trying to get stronger, because you got to realize in the 90s, it was a brutal game. It was rough and tough. You had to have that strength. You had to have that backbone. But now, it's more of a slashing kind of thinner type. If you think about it now, if you look across all teams, there are no bruisers. There's no big body guys. There's all thin guys who've, tweaked their bodies to play basketball. Back then, we had pretty much linebackers and tight ends playing basketball.
Do you think anybody from the current league today is kind of built for that 90s era? Because everybody says the 90s era was rough and tough and a lot of beatings taken in the 90s era, but now you look at it, it's a lot more of a softer league.
Yeah, I won't say it's. I wouldn't say it's softer. I know a lot of guys like to say it's softer. I just think it's different. The way it's called, and they want more points on the board. Of course, LeBron could have played in any era. Guys like Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler has that tough attitude. Joel Embiid. It's a bunch of guys that could have played in that era. It's a different type of era. I think even people always look at Steph and says he couldn't have played in the era. He couldn't have played in the era when his first 3 years in the league because he was little. But now if you look at him now, he's put a little strength on. He's older. He's mature. He knows how to use his body a little bit more. But I think a lot of guys could have played in league because it's all about adapt. You got to adapt to the game. Adaptation is the biggest thing to playing basketball because if you really think about it now, if you look at it. When we played, there was no step back because technically a step back is a travel because it's 1, 2, 3. That's 3 steps. But now, and now when you cross over, your hand had to be on the top or side. Now it's pretty much underneath. And so there's a lot of things that could have made guys back then better and would have hampered the guys now. So when people say, "Oh, well, they couldn't have played in this era," every athlete could have because they would adapt and they would adjust to the situation that's presented to them.
So one of the things I want to get a little bit onto your career now with broadcasting, being an analyst and commentator. Back then you said you didn't expect that would be where you're at. You expected to be kind of a coach, but now here you are working for Spectrum Sportsnet. And I mean, you're one of the better analysts on there. Everybody, I mean, at least once a night, everybody's tweeting about Robert Horry or James Worthy and James Worthy smoking that pack after beating the Nets or something like that. So I mean, now
Yeah.
you're talked about more on social media than you would have been then. So what's that kind of like?
It's been fun. It's been a joy. It's so weird because you have to find your niche and what makes you comfortable on TV. And for me, for a long time, I was just not being me. And as you get to know each other and they get to know you, your personality comes out. And so now I'm just having fun with it. And some nights I try to be the opposite of James, and they don't. This is a secret I'm telling you. They don't even know this. If James says something positive, I'll say something negative just to be the bad guy and have fun with it. And we actually have episodes where I am the bad cop, and so it's just a way to keep the audience on their toes, not do the same thing. Because think about it, basketball is pretty much the same thing every night, and so as an analyst, you're gonna pretty much say the same thing. Oh, they had a good game. They turned the ball over too much. Oh, Steph Curry got hot. LeBron James did an incredible dunk. It's so many things. There's only so many ways you can say and describe that. So you got to bring a little life to it. You got to bring a little, different spin on it. So for me, I just try to put my own little spin on it and have fun, and hopefully that I can continue to do that because it's fun making money talking about basketball.
And that's one of the things I enjoy most about this is when I stepped up into kind of like wanting to be a broadcaster was about 7th grade, and I fell in love with 2K. And I was like, I asked my friend, I was like, what's the worst team on 2K? And he says, well, currently it's the Lakers. And I was like, it was like 2K18. So it was Lonzo as a rookie, Kuzma as a rookie, Ingram as a sophomore. So I go there and play for him on 2K. And I'm like, man, this is my favorite team of all time now. So I started loving this team. I become a huge broadcasting fan. Now here I am interviewing guys like you. And it's kind of funny because, when you enjoy the game so much, it doesn't feel like it's a job. And is that something that ever comes across your mind?
That's one of the reasons I stopped playing basketball. I probably had about 2 years left in my body, but it wasn't fun anymore. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna walk away from this. I got kids and I can do things with them that's gonna bring me a lot more joy. And that's how it is with everything in life for me. I really enjoy my job at Spectrum. I really enjoy working for The Jump on ESPN. There's so many things that have been presented to me that I've turned down because I knew I wouldn't like it. But these are things that I like. These are things that I love really. And I just enjoy the people I'm with because it's the people around you that helps make the job enjoyable. Working with James Worthy, Hall of Famer, is so great. Allie Clifton and Geeter, Chris McGee. And when you jump over to Jump, like, Richard Jefferson and Rachel Nichols, these guys are just, great people to work with, and they make it fun and they just enjoy what they do also. So it's a great environment.
Yo, one of my favorite shows is The Jump. I was just telling my friend the other day that that would be my dream is to work on The Jump one day. So I'm gonna pull a little bit of a jump segment here. I want to. Okay, so I'm gonna name something off as a topic, and I want your honest opinion on what's it like building a super team in the current NBA.
Uh, I personally don't like it because it's for me. I always feel like that's the easy way out. I can understand if you get draft picks and you make trades and stuff. Then, but when guys request to go to certain teams so they can play with their friends, I'm not happy with it. But it is what it is. These guys have earned the right. They've made their money. They've made their mark. And free agency and all these other things have provided that path for them. But I like for me, I just think certain guys can just stay where they are and they're gonna make a super team around it. And that's one of the things I really appreciate about the Greek Freak. Think about it. Nobody really wants to go to Milwaukee. Who wants to go to Milwaukee?
But it gets
But
cold up there. Why would anyone go there?
yeah, he stayed there, and now he's going to have to try to establish a team around him because that's the type of competitor he is. He wants to people to come there and play and get draft picks and work their way to the top.
All right, who's the Nets' biggest matchup in the Eastern Conference?
By far, it's the Philadelphia 76ers. My pick for MVP is Embiid. I know it was LeBron until he got hurt. I know everybody said, well, Embiid's been out. It depends on how long LeBron is out. I just think the body of work that Embiid is doing, killing on the inside, outside, playing good defense. There's so many great things he's doing. And, I'm a big at heart. Started out that in high school and college. So it's about time to give it back to the bigs and stop giving to these little guys.
Okay, this one's on your own career part here. What was your best moment of your career? Highlight play, or even best just funny moment?
For me, it's so everybody remembers me for the shot with the Lakers, but for me, it was a body of work I did in the fourth quarter with the Spurs in the finals against the Pistons, and for me to have 0 points at halftime and then come out and put up 21 points in the second half, and think about this is I didn't get one play ran for me, and so to do go out there and do this without any plays and have a great series and get a I don't know if you can see it, but get the incredible dunk that I had right here. It's a ghosted in, but it's just things like that for me because I put in work, not just for like the last second shot, but for a long, significant stretch of minutes, and that's what it's all about. Not just one moment. It's about a string of moments for me, and trust me, the Lakers shot is always the greatest shot that I made. But these string of shots that I made against the Pistons in their building, to me was the greatest moments, like a row of moments, I should say.
And then I want to talk a little bit about the Nets team right now. LaMarcus Aldridge retires today due to an irregular heartbeat. And really, where do you think this leaves the Nets in the pursuit of the Lakers versus Nets as a possible finals?
But I don't think he was there long enough to make any significant, change in their team. I think the key for them is getting James Harden healthy because James is that second guy for MVP for me. Because this has been the first time in a long time in his career where he's missed this many games. He's been a very durable guy, and this sounds crazy, but he actually made the Nets better, and he made them not just like they went from a 7 to a 12. That's how much of a difference he made, and I think for him to get healthy is going to be really key for those guys. And I'm not rooting for them. I'm not rooting for them at all because I don't really like Steve Nash, and I'm just kidding. He's my boy, but I'm rooting just for some good games. That's all I'm rooting for. I know everybody's predicting them to win if they can stay healthy, and I want them to stay healthy because I want the Lakers to get healthy because I think that's going to be a great matchup. It'd be great for the NBA to see, Brooklyn versus Los Angeles.
Now, do you find yourself having to be a little bit unbiased when it comes to broadcasting for the Lakers, or is that hard being? I mean, whenever you work for a certain channel, you feel like it has to be pertain to that certain. Like I work for the TV3 in town, and I
Mm-hmm.
commentate our basketball games for the Spartans, and I find myself being as unbiased as possible. And be like, "Wow, that was a good shot by Lawrence North," and I was like, "They're just outplaying us in every aspect," and then it's just hard.
For me, it's not hard because you have to be. People at home aren't blind. They see what's going on TV, and or in case of radio, whatever, they know what's going on. So you have to be honest. Just say, and this is the thing with a lot of broadcasters. They want to say, "Oh, our team sucked tonight." It's okay to say that, because if they suck, they suck. You don't want to really call out a particular player. So, LeBron sucked tonight. Unless he was 2 for 40, then you say that. But you try to be honest as possible with people in a nice way. But when they got awful, sometimes you just have to be honest. And it was weird that you say that, because when I first got with the Lakers, I was being honest, and people hated that about me. I'm like, dude, I'm not. Look at it. The product sucks, man. These guys are young. They can be good down the line, but right now they're not good. And when those diehard fans, they don't want you to tell. They don't want to see that. It's like they can't see the forest for the trees. Like, no, they just need some. I was like, that's what I'm saying. But you just put it in a better way. I'm just being honest, and they're not good. They're young, they're not good, and they do a lot of foolish mistakes. So it's hard, but once you get into it and you realize it's best that you just be honest with the fans, because the real true fans, they're not dumb. They know if the team is good or not. Your bias has to go out the window sometimes.
How did you find COVID kind of affecting your job in this pandemic?
It's weird. It really didn't affect my job. We really practice social distance at the studio. I sit at half times when we watch the game, I sit in one part of the studio. James sits in another part. Chris sits in another part. Allie sits in another part. So we never see each other until we go on set, and then we still practice, social distance there. So, the only thing that really affected me is when they actually were, not playing, and so I was at home trying to figure out what I was going to do. So that's why I started a podcast, and that's why I went back to school. It's like all these things you do to occupy your time, because you're really stuck in the house. You can't, go to the market, go to the gym and do things like that. So I found ways to occupy my time. But when basketball came back, I was out the door in the studio as soon as possible. Mm-hmm.
Well, Rob, I'm going to let you go now, but I appreciate you for coming on, and thank you.
My pleasure, man. I hope you get a lot of followers, a lot of views, a lot of subscriptions. So, and good luck to your career, man. Hopefully one day I'll be coaching the team. I'm look to the left, I'm like, hey, I know that guy.
Hopefully, my goal is to move out to LA one day and hopefully commentate for the Lakers or be an ESPN analyst. So that's my goal.
All right, Nathan. Good luck, man. If I can ever help you, let me know.
All right, we'll do. If you go check out Rob's podcast, the Big Shot podcast, right?
Yeah, Big Shot Bob podcast. Yeah.
Big Shot Bob.
Pod.
Check that out on Instagram. Check that out.
All right, my brother. Hey, I actually go get suited and booted now to head to the studio. So I got like a 30 minutes, like an hour drive to get to El Segundo. So, man, it's been a pleasure. So you take care.
All right, thank you. Go check out Rob's podcast, the Big Shot Bob podcast. My name is Nathan Shaw, and as always, check out our merch, the Shot Clock. And don't forget to subscribe and check out everything online at Nathan R. Shaw on Instagram, at the Shot Clock Pod on Instagram. Check out Robert Horry at Robert Horry. Again, thank you for tuning in the Shot Clock Podcast. My name is Nathan Shaw as always, and thank you for listening to another episode.